What is foolishness? We've heard that word so many times. Foolishness is like when I wake up in the morning and rush to social media without recourse to God. Unwise decision. Foolishness is when I make provision for my children to attain the best school, but no provision for them to attend Bible study. Foolishness is when I make plan for my vacation, holidays, and have good time, but never make plan to attend one spiritual program in the church. And wise decision. That is foolishness. I can make plan for everything in this world, but not for my soul. The day we stop thinking about God, listening to God, and relying on God will be the day we submit ourselves to the authorities of this world. Power, money, wealth, call it whatever name. At that point, we become under the control of these authorities. Remember, when God created us in the beginning, He made a serious statement, very important statement. Subdue the world. Take care of the world. You are in charge. But the moment we submit ourselves to the authorities of this world, that authority, subdue the world, is taken away from us. The freedom, that particular freedom to subdue the world and care for the world, is taken away from us. Also, when we stop thinking about God, listening to God, and relying on God, we stop listening to one another. We stop caring for one another. And we stop supporting one another. It is as serious as that. Wealth and success are not inherently wrong or bad. Instead, they reflect God's overflowing abundance. He is full of mercy, kindness, goodness, and love. As immense love and compassion, God has allowed humanity to share in the divine life of His Son through the incarnation. Christ's incarnation marks a profound transformation, guiding humanity toward a new identity. Identity that we can only connect in relationship with God. Identity of love, kindness, generosity, and so on and so forth. While achieving success isn't inherently bad, serving as a reward for hard work and a way to positively influence others. The danger is when we let success define who we are or define us. This is especially true when we become overly attached to it. It is true, especially when we become overly attached to it. When achievements or wealth become our primary identity, we can become foolish, often losing sight of what truly matters. Our dependence on God, our inner character, and the eternal over the temporal. In the parable of the rich fool, the wealthy man is identified as foolish due to his spiritual blindness. This blindness doesn't typically arise from failure. I don't want you to underline that word, failure. No, he didn't fail. He made a lot of money. He worked hard for his money. So Jesus is not talking about failure right now. Instead, it is often sneaked in during times of comfort and success. During these periods, we tend to stop seeking, stop listening, and stop relying on God. Foolishness, from a biblical perspective, goes beyond just lacking intelligence. It signifies a moral and spiritual failing marked by the refusal to accept God's wisdom and guidance. This rejection results in choices that can be very destructive, leading to negative outcomes. It is not merely an issue of intelligence. Instead, it involves a deliberate decision to ignore God's way in favor of one's own flawed reasoning. As a result, even the intelligent and weighty people can still make unwise decisions. We often chase what we think will finally make us secure. A promotion, a growing saving account, or recognition. Let's be practical right now. Everybody wants to be on top. Everyone wants to control. Everyone wants power. I want to be there. And I want to let them know that I'm in charge. It's typical human way, mostly. But Jesus reminds us that life doesn't consist in the abundance of possessions. It consists in being rich toward God. The man in this parable wasn't evil. He was simply unwise. He made plans for everything, but his soul, he never had plan for that. No. He got everything and said to himself, enjoy, rejoice. You have a lot to eat and drink. But what for the soul? For his soul, nothing. In his riches, human lacks wisdom. He measured life by what he had, not by who he belonged to. In the end, God called him a fool, not because he was rich. Underline that word again, rich. Not because he was rich, but because he was unprepared. In our Christian faith and spiritual journey, we should be mindful of our use of possessive language, as it can create a disconnect from more inclusive expressions. Such inclusivity helps us cultivate compassion and empathy, encouraging us to think about others. For instance, in the parable of the rich fool, God was displeased with the wealthy man for two main reasons. Number one, his self-centered mindset was evident in his constant use of this possessive adjective, my. My crops, my birds, my money, my car, my, everywhere. He never thought of other people. He didn't think about those around him. He made provision for himself alone. Selfishness. And that is one of the things that is killing us today. Selfishness. In our world today, there are a lot of people who have made money. They rather use it for something that is not necessary or necessary things than to give to the poor and feed the hungry. That is a clear case of spiritual blindness, totally disconnected from God, or total disconnection from God. Second, he placed his trust in his wealth for security rather than relying on God. And that is exactly what happens when we think we have arrived. Now we are on top of the world. Nobody can say anything to us. We are in charge. We can match other people on their head. It doesn't matter. At that point, we disconnect from God. Because that is not the authentic life God had ever wanted to live. The life we live is expressed in the relationship that exists within the Trinity. The love, the life of love, relational life, connecting with one another, listening to one another, sharing with one another, giving our time to another, being there and support one another. That is what Christian life is about. Jesus is inviting us today to embrace divine reality as we make decisions and choices. We should allow the book of wisdom to guide us to understand the vanities of life. That is our first reading today. Vanities of vanities, all is vanity. God calls him a fool. God called him a fool. He died that very night. His wealth is left behind. His soul is unprepared for eternity. The lesson here is that true wealth is being rich towards God, not stockpiling treasures on earth. The more we stockpile treasures on earth, the more unprepared we become. In our world today, it is disheartening to even understand that some people who are already so close to their grave are still buying and buying and buying and buying. For God's sake, what is in their mind? They still have a lot of time to stay. They do not think things of heaven at that point. The book of wisdom says to us, there is season for everything right. Time to do this, time to do that. Time to acquire, and time to begin to let go. At some point in your life, you should be able to recognize that point that I think it is time for me to let go. And when you do that, somebody somewhere will be praying for you. At the same time, you are storing treasures for yourself in heaven. Each day is a gift, and none of us is promised tomorrow. You know that already. I'm not even sure of tomorrow. You sitting down here, you are not even sure of tomorrow. That is it. That's exactly the reality. Somebody you see today, you might not see him or her tomorrow. That is why we have to prepare always. And be ready. And not accumulating here and there. At some point too, we try to galvanize and take away from our parents in the name of will. It belongs to me. Without even thinking about, someone just died. You are not thinking about this person. You are thinking about what you're going to gain. Does that make sense? You forgot. It's going to be your turn one day. These are instances of unwise decisions that we make sometimes. That is what Jesus called foolishness. The real question is not how much we have stored, but how much we have surrendered. God isn't impressed with full barns. The story says that he was going to tear you down, and build a large barn where he can stop, because he has made so much wealth that what he had wasn't enough to accommodate. But God is not asking us to be barns here on earth. because the world is not our home. It's asking us to have a large heart where love can flow, connect with people, share with people. Heart is where love dwells. It wants us to expand our hearts, extending our heart to so many people. The immigrants, those who have no place to lay their heads, those hungry. That's what he wants. He's not impressed with hundreds of expensive wristwatches, shoes, jewelry, clothes, and bags we have in our closets. And I want to challenge you today. When you go back home, get into your closets. Anything you know is no longer of use for you, take it away. You don't need it. It's even more painful when we go and buy things we don't need. Sometimes edible things, and we allow them to expire. We have where we can bring them, pantry. Whatever you don't need it. You don't have to buy what you don't need. Bring them to the pantry. Somebody, somewhere needs the stuff. God bless us.